disorganized here, a bit late getting set up. We should now be live on both Twitch and YouTube. I've tried decreasing the latency setting on YouTube, so hopefully the chats will be coming through a little bit more real time. I'm just going to pull up the chat in another window so that I can see it. And there we go. Excellent. Okay, I'm going to try turning on my audio. Hopefully I don't have any copies of the stream open. Find out if I do. That seems okay. All right, so last stream, which was Monday my time, I was working on the Troll AI and ran into some problems getting the server to understand IDs and things. I ended up solving that problem off stream. It was the problem is that I use longs, so 64-bit identifiers. Good morning, Ifman. I use longs as part of my IDs, and they were being serialized to JavaScript numbers in the JSON, and so they weren't being interpreted properly. I fixed that by converting those longs to strings so that they get sent over the wire properly. So where I'm at the moment, it's probably worth me taking a look at where I'm at. I split up the AI into a separate file because that was starting to get a bit annoying having everything just sitting in index before. So now we actually call off into a separate function, which now does all that old processing. The current logic is if we don't have an aggro target, but there is a valid target, that's down here. If we don't have a target, but there is a valid one, then set it. If we have a valid target, but they're no longer valid, then reset it. And then if they're within range, then attack. This tries decrementing the health. And if I remember correctly, this is the part that was broken when I was last looking at this. So let's just grab a look at the entities. We can see that sorry, I'm just going to pull up OBS over on this screen so that I can make sure the webcam isn't getting in the way of anything important. There we go. So over here we have the troll. It has its usual agent information, which tells it how to behave. And then over in here, we can see the current state. It is targeting a player at the moment. The player itself has its health component somewhere in here, but it's not being set correctly. Current health is getting set to null. So that is where I'm going to kick off. Good morning, Zephyr. That name sounds familiar as well. I think I've seen you in the stream before. So let's see if I can get things into, let's get an attack happening. I'm not up in the debugger. Let's just restart things. And welcome back, Loxlow Lex. Doing very well. I believe you're in Europe, if I remember correctly. So thank you for staying up so late at night. Just going to make sure I've got everything right. Sorry, I do have my microphone. I've got my lights on. I've got half a litre of coffee. So that will keep me going. Got a heater on, so hopefully my fingers don't get too cold this time. Everyone normally thinks of Australia as being a really warm place. But as a result, we don't really do a very good job of insulating our homes, so our winters can get a bit cold here. Okay. Why are we not hitting that breakpoint? I just don't know what state things are in. I'm going to just clear everything out. Delete all the entities, put the troll back in. Check that the state of everything is right. So yes, we've just got a troll. He's got his aggro stuff. He doesn't have a target. That's all good. join into the game. Oh, hi, Zephyr. Yes, so Tasmania is, I'm guessing, a bit colder than Sydney at the moment. So I probably shouldn't be complaining too much. All right. See in here that we are getting these attacks coming through. So something's working, but I'm still not hitting these breakpoints. Oh, I know why I'm not hitting the breakpoints. I'm debugging the wrong process. I'm meant to be debugging the ticker process, which is where all of the AI actually happens. And we have hit the breakpoint, but too soon. For those new to the stream, I do run into an issue when I hit a breakpoint too early in the process. It seems to crash my server process for some reason. It's obviously some issue with my development environment. So instead, what I have to do is let everything spin up, then set my breakpoint, and we seem to work a bit better. All right, so this is going to try and decrement current health, but current health is null. I might have to get rid of this player. Health is indeed null. Okay. I'm not sure the best way of debugging this. The problem is I need to see the player come in. So what I'll do is I will take the player out, let this continue. I'll come back and delete those entities again, recreate the troll. Now when the player comes in, they should be a fresh player. So we're not hitting this breakpoint because there is no player. And then when I hit play in here, just as the player gets in range, they should take their first damage. There we go. Current health is equal to what? Here's our health component, attributes. Current health and max health are both there. So that means that the code that's breaking must be in here where we send this change through to the server. Well, first thing I can see here is we should definitely have a name being max health. Otherwise, I'll just overwrite that value. Health comp dot attributes dot max health. Float value is undefined. So the question then becomes, why is this not getting set? I'm going to take a guess here. Let's just let this stuff run through. My guess is that this isn't being set properly because the server is trying to assign that string value in instead of the integer value. So I'll just see if that looks plausible. I need the update method on the server. And we come through here, and then for each component... Oh, sorry, I only just saw the donut comment. No donut today. That was my kids had a swimming lesson the other day, and my wife picked up a donut from the swimming cafe on her way home. So I'm not going to get that every day, unfortunately. All right. In here, for each component, I am guessing that this line here is wrong. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to move this out into a separate method. What's that going to be? Control-Alt-M. And we'll just put it at the top level, and we'll call it extract value like that. Should probably be a proto component attribute. Is that right? Import proto from netcode. Oh, I already had a netcode import. Let's refactor that. There we go. So I'll move over to the entity service again so that we can see this value coming through. Let that run. I'll get the player out of the game. I'll get the database deleted again. The troll recreated. Player into the game. Now this will probably hit way too early. That's fine. We're trying to set some aggro. We're trying to set the aggro target there. So what I'll do is I'll put in here a conditional breakpoint that says item.name is equal to current health. So we'll try and watch this current health getting set. Done. And then run. Excellent. Now when the player gets too close, we should hit that breakpoint. There we go. And find out what's wrong with this thing. This expression here, I'm guessing is undefined. So we run that. No, that is defined. What's its problem? Step out of here. Step through to there. Component data should contain those two attributes. Yep, current health and max health. I don't get what the problem is here. So it's setting it once. Yeah, I probably should set up a script for the really common commands. But I quite often just use, I don't know if people use a lot of bash, but there's a Control-R command, and it just lets you search. So I can just quickly type in delete, and it will give me my previous command that had a delete in it. And so quite often that's just as quick as setting up a shell script. Okay, so this is making me think that I'm having troubles getting the value back out the second time or something. It does look like this is working the first time. Okay, so what I'm going to do is when we try to do damage, this is where we do damage. I'm actually going to say that if the health component dot attributes dot current health, if not that, so if it's not going to be defined, then I'm just going to return no updates. This method here just returns a list of updates to make to the models. This way we will skip over the code that's causing this to become undefined. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get this to run just once so that we can see the value taking in the database. Oops, what have I done? My mouse is bound. we go. Exit. Exit. Come back in here. Delete those. Create the troll. Hit play. Then we're going to step in here, get some damage done to us, and I expect that to have done some damage. And it has. Our current health is 900. Our maximum health is 1,000. So then the question becomes, why is current health not being read back correctly? And I do not know. The reason it's so confusing to me is we can see the health getting read out of here. Oh, attributes is nested inside attributes. Oh. Oh, that's on everything. Yeah, get within a single tile of this troll and he will do 10% of your damage, your health to you as damage. Okay, so this is the problem here. Whenever we're writing out the attributes, we're actually writing them inside themselves. Now, that is definitely going to be in the entities controller. In the update method, component data, I can't work out why attributes is getting doubled. If I put a breakpoint in here, component data should just be the dictionary of the attribute values. Like, it shouldn't have another attributes clause in there, I don't think. While that's starting up, I'm going to pour myself one of those coffees. Go. Oh, it's too short. No, that's not where I expected to hit a breakpoint. Why am I breakpointing there? That is definitely not right. Might just delete all my breakpoints. Run new breakpoints. Get rid of them all. Set a new one on here. Debug. Okay, now component data is... it does have something called attributes on it. Thank you, LoxLolex. That's exactly what the issue is. Now if I can find where I actually set that. It's down here, up here. You're absolutely right. This should be just like that. And like that. Stop that. Rerun it. Not confident enough to do this outside the debugger yet. I'll get the player out. I'll delete everything. Troll. Need a troll. Get my player back in. There's a little bit of a glitch there as the game loads up. Things seem to just fall for a moment. I thought I had fixed all the bugs around that, but there's something suspicious going on there. All right, so my player is in on full health. And I presume it's been targeted. It has been targeted. Now I run up, get myself attacked a couple of times, come back out. And there we go. We've now on 700 health. Come all the way in. I think I might get to do some actual Unity development again in a moment. Let's get a few more attacks. Health is on 0. And health is probably going negative. No, it's not going down. That's a bit surprising. Oh, I know why it's not going down. It's probably the code for extract value. Extract value. I think that it's failing this check here. Because this int value is 0, it's moving on to the next. Maybe. Ah, no, here it is. I can tell you exactly where it is. It is passing that check. The problem is I am checking here. It's failing this check. So if I get rid of that, our health should now go negative. I know that's not what we actually want, but that's what the code is telling it to do. So we'll get that going negative. Now, to explain how this system would work, currently the ticker service, I've shown this code a bit before, it currently goes and looks for all of the components, all of the agent components, so that it can go and process the AI. It would also be going off and fetching all of the health components and checking for any players, for example, that had been killed, and it would go and process their deaths, go and update their stats, pull them out of the world, put a new, respawn them, depending on what the respawn rules are. So this ticker service itself is responsible for a lot of stuff. We probably don't want to handle player deaths in the troll AI itself, because otherwise we're going to end up with a lot of duplicated code. So that would get pulled out into the top level of the ticker service. That would just be another query that we'd be doing to find any players that need to be killed. All right, so we bring our player up close to the troll again. I presume that's getting attacked. Come back out. Take a look at our player. And yep, they're on negative health now. Beautiful, another bug fixed. Okay, I am just going to bring up Trello in here. Just get that checked off in here. So we have made it detect players and store aggro. We've made it do damage to the player within a tile. Next, I'm planning on doing it, making it play a sound, but first I need to get the client actually showing the correct health. Now, my client code for all of the remote components is really, really ugly at the moment. Righto. Welcome back, Northern Code. I'm not sure what you mean by tomato or tomato. Oh, is it have I pronounced something weirdly? I'm assuming that's what that is. Also, please do let me know what you think of the video quality. I have adjusted a setting in YouTube to keep our latency a bit lower, and they did warn that it could impact the video quality. So if you're having troubles reading text, let me know. But it should mean that I'm able to respond to comments closer to real time. Okay. So I need to detect the player's health component coming in. Now, at the moment, I don't think I'm even sending the player component through to the client. And so this will be in the transmitter service. We'll just find the UDP transmitter service. Text looks great. Excellent. So I'll keep that setting on. Now, this is the code that runs on every tick to send UDP messages out to the client. It creates a message using all the entities. And we currently filter out the entity for the current session. So this is to stop the player from getting duplicated in their own world. But better is going to be to do that on the client side, because we do need to send server-side components for the player, such as their health, through to the client. So I'm going to get rid of that there. That is going to make a mess in the client now. If we come in here, we're probably going to end up with 2 copies of the player. Let's check that. There we go. There's a second. Yeah, all right. So we're seeing a delayed copy of the player at the moment. That's exactly what I expect. I should also point out to people, while the latency looks really bad at the moment, that's artificial. It's because I have set the tick rate to just 1 Hertz. So normally the updates will be coming through a lot faster. I do also need to put in code to smooth out all of the updates on the client so that things don't just jitter about. But don't be concerned about what looks like really poor latency. All right. So here we are on the client side. This is when it receives a UDP message. It needs to, for each entity update, it goes through and, well, I suppose we need to treat the updates for our current player separately. So if ID equals, I'm not sure where I store details, no, underscore session dot details dot entity ID. There we go. So if it is an update for the sessions entity, so that is the player, then for now we'll just ignore it. Else, let's come down here and do all the other processing. Okay. Process player updates, and we will pass it update. Okay, that method. Beautiful. So in here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to search specifically for a health component. What will that look like? Update dot generic components dot can't remember what this looks like. This is horrible generated code. Components is a repeated field of component updates. So here I've got you're going to see me try and do the context switch between TypeScript and C#. I have never done a huge amount of either, and so it takes me sometimes a little while to remember how to code in each language. Uh, no, so to answer if man, I don't use Visual Studio. So I use two different JetBrains products. They look very, very similar. So this is actually a product called Rider. It's a C# editor that has integration into Unity. I prefer it because it gives me all of the same debug capabilities that I get in any other JetBrains product. The other window, which is this one, is straight IntelliJ. For working out which one's which, I54Serve up the top there is the name of my IntelliJ project, whereas Demo is the name of my C# project. So yes, I don't use Visual Studio. I'm not a huge fan of it. I prefer the JetBrains products. I own the full JetBrains suite. I need that for my regular work. And yeah, I know not everyone can afford commercial editors, but I very much like the commercial editor. All right, so we're going to select. Then I presume we take a function. Component update is going to go type equals health. On the topic of IDEs, I believe that if people do want to try Rider, by the way, I think it's a 30-day free trial. Just over it, I don't know, just do a search for JetBrains Rider, RIDER. I have no idea how much it is normally. I've got they call it like IntelliJ Complete or something like that. It's every one of the IntelliJ products. So it means if I'm doing C++ coding, then I do it in CLion. They've got a Swift editor, an Objective-C editor. So yeah, it means I don't have to swap around editors is the other advantage. Yeah, sorry. So we've got 9 people in today. 1 person over in Twitch. Hello, whoever that is over in Twitch. Yes, not Matt W. I did see the email come through about the subscription prices going up. I haven't looked at the details for that either. When you're coding all day, every day, it's pretty easy to warrant the expense of something like IntelliJ. Okay. If it equals health, yeah, Xcode. I mean, app code. For anyone watching without comments, the comment is from Matt. Sorry, not Matt W. That app code isn't as good as Xcode because Xcode has better integration. App code itself is built on top of Xcode, so everything you do in app code is actually calling out to the Xcode command line under the covers. I prefer app code purely because all of my key combinations, all my muscle memory just works out of the box, and I really don't like Xcode's refactoring support. So I prefer app code for that reason. But you're right. It's calling out to Xcode under the covers, and it's sometimes a little bit clunky when it calls out to Xcode. The reason for not using enums for component types is that it's just more flexible for me at the moment. If I use enums, then I need to modify my TypeScript, not my TypeScript, my protobuf every time. But I'm not at all worried about speed at this point. String comparisons really aren't slow. If you're worried about string comparisons in a game that's communicating over the network, then you're definitely worrying about the wrong thing. If performance becomes an issue, then what you need to do is go off and actually demonstrate where those performance problems are. I would be very surprised if string comparisons even showed up at all on my profiling. There's other things that will be taking up time. They're things like I do a lot of just the encoding into protobuf format. Once I start doing compression, that will start taking up a lot of time as well. But even though it will be taking up a lot of CPU time, it will be a net benefit because it will pack more data into the very, very, very limited number of bytes that we can send in each packet. So if you're worrying about string comparisons when you're writing code, 99.9% of the time, you're worrying about the wrong thing. And so I'd rather keep my development method as simple as possible, which means using strings at the moment. And if I can show that it's a problem later, then I'll I'll use enums. Okay, so we've got a select dot, is there a first or something? Yep, first. So this is going to be const. Health component. Yeah, what not MatW says is exactly right. It's not MatW says everything is the wrong thing to optimize until you have proof it is the right thing. That is absolutely right. And there's a fairly well-known author. I'm sure I'm not going to be able to remember who it is. I mean, the original quote came from Donald Knuth, who said something like premature optimization is the root of all evil, or something like that. And then it was someone like Herb Sutter or someone like that who then went and converted that to a coding standard guideline, which is never prematurely optimize. And it's something to really live by. Otherwise, you just spend so much effort optimizing things that really don't matter at the end of the day. And you end up complicating your code, which means you can write less code. And so, yeah, what not MatW says is absolutely spot on. I completely agree with that. Sorry, I'm talking more than developing here, and one of these days I'll be able to talk and code at the same time, but I'm just not quite there yet. Dot. Where are the dot attributes or something? That's a bool. I'm not expecting that. It's because I'm using select. That's meant to be where, isn't it? Default. And again, apologies that my C# skills are really not up to scratch here. Store default. All right. My code will be full of answers to the chat, yeah. Dot attributes dot. What does first do? Sorry, I'm trying to work out how to get this to throw an exception or something if we don't have, or return null. First returns. I don't know. Dot attributes. And let's go current health. No. Do I have to enumerate these? Atta goes to atta dot name equals then what have I got in here? I need the current health. And then dot select. Can't do dot select. Yep, that's fair. Var current health attribute. It's going to be equal to that, and then we go current exception when null is returned. Use dot single. Thank you. So I presume I'd do a dot where dot single, or can I just do dot single like that? Okay. Yeah, and I guess what I really want is something that returns an optional. So if there were like a, oops, can't do that. I'm thinking TypeScript. A component update, component update like that. No, I'm imagining things that's even possible. Anyway, dot single is kind of what I'm after. No, I'm not, because I don't really want to throw exceptions here. If there's something that returns an optional, that would be awesome to know. But otherwise, I'm just going to use first and use the first or default, I guess, and just let it fall through, because this will return just a default instance of the component update. This will return a default instance of the attribute. So this is probably my best bet for now, I think. But it's good to know that .single exists. Single or default only throws if more than one is found. Excellent. And in that case, I do want to throw. So yep, that sounds good. Current health attribute dot, and I'm just going to grab the int value. Now in here, I need to set the player's actual health. So I do have a singleton for the player. I know this is a little nasty, but let's go and get a component. Grab, I think I have a health. No, it's a survival, I think I call it. Survival, yep. So let's do a var. Survival is going to be equal to that. And let's do survival dot health is going to be equal to that. Oh, perfect. Yeah, so this is returning optionals. Nice. So I can do question mark dot attribute, question mark dot single or default. And then in here, if current health added dot as dot not equal to null. Yeah, nice. So not an optional, it's just nullable. Yeah, like I said, I have trouble switching between TypeScript and C#. Uint to int. I'll just ask it to do a casting here. Dodgy, but it'll do. Okay, that looks about right. Now, I'm not sure which thread I'm running on is one issue I have here. I run all my network code from memory. I run it all on a background thread. So I've got a feeling I actually need to push these off onto another thread. Otherwise, this might do all sorts of horrible things, but let's just try it. Play. What are the odds of this working? I'm not expecting to get these duplicate player updates. the player's pushing me around. That's not me moving. Okay. So, why are we getting... Let's rename that to use all uppercase initial caps in C#. Okay. I'd say that this equality is just not true. So let's get a breakpoint on that. Debug. Turn on breakpoints. Go into the game and I don't know what that breakpoint was for. Here we go. So I am looking for that, which is obviously not a match, so this must be the troll update coming through. And now I do have, these look like a, oh, I thought it looked like a match. C9, no. C9. Here we go, this one's a match. I can see down here the ID that we're processing. Let's turn off this breakpoint so we don't hit it again. ID we're processing, it matches our session's entity ID, so I am expecting this to come in. Just making sure that is a string, that's a string. Oh no, there's something very, very wrong with this ID. Very, very, very wrong. All right. I am going to go out on a limb and guess that this function here is not working. And I'm not using GUIDs anymore, so I was having issues earlier where the GUID standard talks about how to transfer UUIDs on the wire, and the .NET implementation doesn't have any way of conforming to that. So this code was designed to just build up strings from the wire format. All right, let's come in here, run. So here we have an ID. ID high is a 32-bit value, and here's a 64-bit value. These look totally legit. Oh, hang on, I've got to restart this. Something is out of sync. Let's rerun client. Yep, we've hit this breakpoint. What is this going to return? I'll just evaluate that. Again, this is definitely not what I'm expecting. I'm expecting no zeros through here because there are no 0 bytes in this part of the ID. This is just going to be... Ah, here it is. That is wrong. Yeah, okay, I will just try recompiling that. What do I need to do? Continue. Reload. Oh, all through the ground bug. I really thought I had fixed that. Oops. Okay. So in this case, we're expecting 62CE. Wait. Still no? Okay. What is going on here? That one is correctly 0. We do expect all leading zeros because this is only a 32-bit value. Then we grab this one. Is 62CE. And if we grab that, what do we get? 62CE. I don't know, one of my debug windows is obviously running in the wrong context. Okay, let's just try that again. There we go. That ID seems to match these bytes here. F5, B, yep, okay, cool. Let's get rid of that. Rerun that. Well, we don't even need to rerun it. hopefully we don't see our doppelganger, and our health is on full. As we come in, still don't get any updates. Let's come and look at what is actually in our player entity. Oh, we don't have a player entity. That's not a good sign. Did my server crash? Bring the server down. I'll bring a new server up, just over in this command line. I'll check state of the entity store. We only have a troll. It's currently not aggressive to anything, and it is configured correctly. So now when I bring up the client, what do we get? Take a peek. Sure enough, we now have a player who's on full health. We run forward. Did we take any damage? We did take some damage. Oh, it did come through. There we go. So I'm not sure if that's lag in... Well, that does look a lot like lag in the message processing. Not ideal. There we go. You can see damage being done, and the player is now dead. All right. That is starting to work. I need to look into... I won't do it now, but I need to look into whether or not that what looked like lag is coming from... Yes, never seen anyone so excited to take damage. So that's quite a few days of work to get that damage done to the player. But I need to work out where that apparent lag is coming from. I know how I can... I do just want to see whether or not that lag was real. Is it just the low tick rate, or is it genuine latency in my system? I'm hoping it's not latency in my system, because otherwise I'm going to have to, at some point, resolve that. Okay, so if I bring a new player in, we're probably going to see the old player. Just don't panic if you see the old player. There they are. They'll disappear after about a minute. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring up the server here, because this server log will tell us... I'll get it away from my camera, don't worry. That will tell us if the troll is attacking. It'll tell us when the troll is attacking. So when we come in close, we'll see an attack, 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 attack. Yeah, okay, so there's something going on there. Anyway, I'll look into that later. Okay. So, next I'm going to play a sound when the troll gets attacked, when the player gets attacked. Before I do that, I will just do a quick git minus m troll attacking player. Just get this into version control. Why is that not happy? Oh, yeah, okay. Add dot it. There we go. And I need, did I make any client changes? I did. So I'm going to have to do that. Add dot, oops, dot, it's that. Beautiful. So, playing sounds. we need a way for the server to tell the client to play a sound. And I've had a bit of a think about how I want to do this. And again, I want to do it using server-side components. Now, the logic here is that if I do it without components, then I need to extend my protocol again. Whereas doing it as components has the benefit that, well, it sits on top of the existing protocol, and it also makes it really easy to say where a sound is coming from, for example. So if we put a component on the troll saying that it should play a sound, then the client can see that component and know how loud to make the sound and what direction the sound should be coming from for doing the stereo sound and things. So that's my logic for wanting to do it as components. The complication with that is around the timing. We kind of want to say what time the sound should have started playing at. And so that means that the clocks probably need to be synchronized between the client and the server. But I'll just ignore that for now and just say that when the client sees that component come in, it should play a sound. And some period of time after the component has been added, that component needs to be removed because the sound just shouldn't be played anymore. So let's see, when we get an attack happening, it's going to happen in here. Here is all of my attack code. So I'm actually going to move this out into a separate function. So if down to there, move that out. There's multiple exit points. Yeah, that's true. Yes. What I'm going to do is invert this code here just to make it easier to extract this as a method. All right, can that now be extracted as a method? Yes. Global attack player. I'm also going to pass through the entity itself, which is the troll. Entity colon any. Just going to pass this as any for now. All right, so this is my attack code. So when it decides to attack, we unconditionally, unconditionally need to play a sound effect. So let's find a nice little whoosh sound effect. I won't be allowed to use this particular sound in the actual game because I'm going to just grab something out of the YouTube library. Just make sure this doesn't have anything where I bring this window across. Sure it doesn't have anything that I'm not allowed to show you. Okay. So we need to search for, I don't know, whoosh. Oops, sound effects. Swoosh. Oh, I'm doing the search in the wrong spot. Swoosh. Well, not quite what we want. Oh, that's a bit extreme. All right, it'll have to do. I'll just try one of these others. No, that's not right. Nope. All right, that one will do. I'm going to download that one. Let's do that off screen. Then in here, no assets, resources. I need to do this from the Unity editor, don't I? Otherwise I'm not going to get the meta information. Project, let's get this full screen. Stop the client. Resources, create a folder with sounds. And can I just drag that into there? That'd be nice. Looks like I can. Let's rename it to whoosh MP3. Or if I need the .mp3 or not. Oh, what's it doing? It's unhappy. Oh, there we go. So we now have a whoosh. Then in here, I'm going to add whoosh sound to control. Yeah, I do actually have assets all over the place. The reason that looked clean is I've got that resources folder, and the resources folder I've got configured. I think I've got it configured. I'm not sure if this is default out of the box. These are the resources that I can load at runtime. And so, yeah, outside this resources folder, I've got stuff all over the place. You can see I've got chickens up here. I've got probably bits of troll all over the place. I don't even know what this folder here is. I was obviously starting to do some aggressive mob stuff in there. But resources tends to be a little bit tidier here because it only has the things that I need at runtime in it. But yeah, under everything else is just an absolute mess. I've got sprites over here sometimes. Yeah, I don't know the right way to structure these projects. But this stuff is going to have to be loaded at runtime. In fact, most stuff now that I've gone multiplayer does need to be loaded at runtime because it's up to the server tells the client which models to load. It's not part of a scene or anything like that. So yeah, it all needs to be bundled up as resources. So I'm going to add a resource sound to the troll. So that, I guess, is going to happen as an update. Updates.push. I'm going to have an entity ID from hex. Oh no, this is not going to apply to the player. This is going to apply to the entity, like that. We're going to do. This is technically an update because we're updating this entity. Proto.update type.update. Then I'm going to specify this as undefined because I don't want to modify the transform. Generic components. I'm not actually familiar with addressables, Ifman. The question, will I keep it in resources or will I switch it to addressables? I appreciate the question because I'm actually going to just create off screen. I keep a little notes folder over here. Unity addressables. So that's something I can go and look up for myself off screen. But I'm not familiar with what addressables are, so I'm going to have to go learn about that. So I'm going to create a new component update. This is then what do we need? A component ID. I don't have a component ID because this is going to be a new component. Proto.update.create. So we're creating a new component. I probably still have to specify this as undefined. That should be update type. And then type is I don't know, let's just call it play sound. And then attributes, I will make it dots. Dots, is that one of the game engines? I can't remember. From memory, dots is a game engine, or a networking library. I'm actually going to look that one up. Find what that is. Unity ECS. Yes, I've investigated Unity ECS. I would like to use ECS on the client. I'm not convinced that the benefit would be there for me at this point. Now, obviously, ECS, for anyone not familiar, is a very high performance way of storing your data. So Unity's out-of-the-box component hierarchy is sort of very object-oriented. You store your code alongside all of your data. Its components have both data and code. Under ECS, it's a data-oriented way of storing your components. So components, rather than having code, only have data. And then you separately have systems which operate on that data. Now, you'll notice that's exactly the architecture I'm using on my game server. Yes, I would like to have that on the client, but I've always been concerned that I'd lose a lot of support for a lot of the more basic stuff. And because I don't know Unity, I'm more worried that I'll have more troubles using ECS than otherwise. Now, the other thing is that ECS, the benefits of ECS only really kick in once you have a lot of entities in your game. I've seen quite a few benchmarks of, I presume it's of Dots, because it was the built-in ECS framework for Unity that I saw the benchmarks of. And they had it was something using spaceships or something like that. And they were able to support quite a few thousand spaceships within Unity in either ECS or full hierarchical. And it was only once they had many thousands of entities they saw the benefit out of ECS. So it's something I will look into in the future. And I am aware that it might be more work the longer I wait. That said, I'm not sure that's necessarily true in my case because I just really don't have a game hierarchy. Like I build the game hierarchy programmatically at the moment. What comes back from the server is very much an ECS view of the world. So I think it would be fairly straightforward for me to port my existing client over to an ECS framework. If you had a custom, lots of custom scenes that you had built up in Unity, then I definitely think that would be a concern that it could become a lot of effort to move over to ECS later. If my server is ECS, I don't think that'll be a huge issue for me. So here, let's put attributes. I can't remember what I need to do here. This is just an array. An array? Really? Did I do attributes as an array? Yes, I know why I did that. And name is going to be so Neozoid, entities meaning, so unfortunately it has two slightly different meanings depending on whether or not you're in ECS or hierarchical view. But the easiest way of thinking about an entity is some object in the game that has components attached to it. So for the hierarchical view, each of these nodes is an entity in Unity. Under ECS, they are still entities. They'd just be structured a little differently. But an entity is just an item. It may have a position within the game. It will usually have a position with the game, but it's basically a collection of components is what an entity is, a tightly coupled collection of components. A thing, an object. I think object, like a real world object. A game world object is probably a good analog for an entity. Something that can move, something that can be operated on. Yeah. In either view of the world, a troll will always be an entity. And a player will always be an entity. All right, so I've got sound. I'm going to do a string value, which I'm just going to make whoosh. I need to specify all of these as undefined. I really need to make factory methods for these. I keep saying that on every single stream. I'll get round to it maybe this afternoon. All right, so that should make it able to play a sound. Now, I do also need to know when the sound expires. So I'm going to put another attribute on here. And I'm just going to call it expires. Now I'm going to put a hashtag in front of this one. The reason being I'm using hash symbols on my components and attributes to indicate that they are not needed by the client. For now, I do want to send this through because I have a feeling the client won't get told when this component gets deleted at this point. Just a weakness in my UDP transmission code at the moment. So string value is going to be undefined. I'm going to put an int value on this, which is the current time. I think I'm using moment to do that. Dot value of no, that needs to be a default import. Probably could have got IntelliJ to do that for me. Moment.value of float value is going to be, let's say plus 2000 milliseconds. This is all very hacky. Point is just to get this stuff working for now. Find. Okay, so the moment an attack happens, we now set a play sound component on the troll itself. The sound set to whoosh. We have an expiry time so that we know to delete it later. I don't think I've actually tested this component creation code before, so I'm not really expecting this to work. I also need some code that can find all of the play sounds and remove them once they reach their expiry time. So I'm going to do that in the tick service. So at the moment, this one goes and processes all of the agent entities. Let's move this into a new method. It's got some returns. Where's my extra return? That's the problem. Refactor has multiple exit points. see them. Continue there, that continues out of that for loop. See no returns. I think IntelliJ is confused. Either that or I'm about to work out why it didn't like that. Let's do process agents, AI agents, and const process AI agents. It's going to be equal to that, goes to there. This one has to be async. In here, I can do a promise dot all that, and we will await that promise. Is that right? Yep. Now, what that lets me do is in here, I can go and come up with something else like process sounds. And now these will actually get processed, I believe, in parallel, mostly. Const process sounds is going to be equal to that, goes to, this needs to be async. I like semicolons on the ends of these. These are constants, they're not actually functions. All right, so the very first thing I do is ask for any let's make that agents. We are going to ask for any components with any entities with a play sound component attached. And then for each of those, just going to copy a lot of this code. It just occurred to me why it wouldn't let me refactor that code earlier. I said that I didn't have any. It was complaining that this code had multiple return points, but I was saying that it didn't. But of course it does. The reason is because of these await here and here and here. Because it is async, these do actually kind of, well, the whole thing returns a promise. So these are considered return points. It's just, yeah, neither here nor there. So IntelliJ probably could have refactored it if it knew how to factor out an async function. Okay. What have we got? We are processing our, oh, that's our AI agents, processing our sounds. Need to get play sound. Play sound. PlaySound.attributes.expiry, I think I called it. Let's double check that. Expires. Again, if I were to define a schema of some sort for these, then this would be a lot less a lot less flaky. This is pretty flaky at the moment because the editor has no idea if this expires or expiry. But I don't want to be having to tweak the schema every time I add an attribute at this point in time. If that is less than, let's make it now, and then up in here, go const now is equal to moment dot value of. Come on, IntelliJ. Add the import. Yay. Okay, so if that's the case, then I want to request a deletion of that component. Not the entity, but the component. So to do that, I need to await the entity client dot send an update. I'm going to give it a single entity update for entity. I feel like a broken record saying I really need to create factories for this stuff. UUID dot from X entity.id. Import for that. Dot to proto. Get that into the right format. That has imported from the wrong spot. Back to here. That's proto. I need an update type. Is proto.update type dot what? Yes. Proto.update type dot update because we're updating this entity. Transform is undefined because we're not changing that. Generic components, we are going to specify a single generic component update. Component ID UUID dot from hex entity. No, not entity. This needs to be the play sound dot ID. To proto update type is a proto update type dot delete. So here's where we do the actual deletion. And then attributes is undefined. We've got nothing to specify there. Why doesn't it like that? Oh, it wants it to be an empty array. That's fair. Type, I don't think that undefined. No. This is going to get ignored anyway, but I'll just specify play sound. Because we've got the ID, we've got the deletion request. So this should delete the play sound component off the troll entity. Okay. So there is that bracket. Nope. How does that look? Doesn't like that. That's fair. Oops. Seeing that. How's that looking? No errors. Okay, so on tick, we go through and process all the AI agents and sounds in parallel, wait for the result to come back. Nice. Let's take a look at that with my... All right, so we can see here that this is on every tick, it's receiving a single agent and it's receiving 0 play sound entities. Then, well, I can test it, right? Hit play. So we won't get a sound coming through yet, but we should hopefully see the entities getting updated. Let's get this better. You guys, I'm not in the way of the debug. No. Sorry. Okay, so what I'm expecting in here, where we see received 0 play sound entities, I'm expecting that to increase to 1. Oh, more than... I should start counting up because we might get multiple whooshes within the... Okay, it's not doing its job. We are attacking... you can see that the entity service is doing a bunch of work. So the question becomes, what does our AQ, what do our entities look like? A troll should have a bunch of extra components on it now. Here's our troll. Has components. It does not have any play sound components on it. So we've not even made it through the first gate. So let's take a look. Very first thing it does is pushes this update in. It's asking us to update the entity by creating a component. My guess is that the entity controller is not handling component creation. I thought I had written the code for that, but update, component update. Here it is. Oh, this is definitely not going to work. Because this is just the attribute values, and I'm trying to push them in as a new component. So that's easily fixed. Just put attributes on that one. Now just make sure this kind of corresponds. Yeah, that corresponds with attributes there. And then in here, I'm going to need like a type. Component update dot type. Is that it? What other values do I have? The type, component ID is not set, the update type we've looked at, and the attributes. Cool. Is this still running? Is still running. What does our troll look like? Our troll still does not have any of those on it. So it is time to crack open the debugger. We're updating the entity, pushing a new component. Oh, that's not right. This should be push. And we're going to push in here components. Let's do that and that. That. Yeah, components dot dollar push didn't make any sense. So I'm trying to push this value into the components array on this entity. I'll just try that before I spin it up in the debugger. Never know, it might work. There we go. It is receiving single play sounds. I know exactly why it's not receiving multiple. I'll show that in a moment, but I should see a lot of play sound entities on the troll now. There we go. So we've got play sound entities coming up left, right, and center. So the next thing I need to do is get it to process more than one play sound at a time. That will happen back in the ticker service. When I process the sounds, I'm calling getComponent. GetComponent is a little helper that just returns the first component. So, oops, what have I done? So this instead needs to be getComponents. That needs to be play sounds. Then for const play sound of play sounds. Oh, I didn't mean to stop that server. Wow, it's doing a lot of parallel processing. I'm not a fan of whatever's going on here. I think, yeah, this is getting longer and longer. So I know exactly what's happening here. Catch you around, if man. Um, thank you for joining in. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I'm going to get the sound working today. But thank you very much for joining us. So what's happening here is this process zero promises sounds a lot like something that our entity controller says when it tries doing an update. So what I think is happening is we're sending through the deletion requests and our entity service is completely ignoring the deletion request. So let's go take a look at entity controller. Entity controller, there it is. Entities controller. Okay, so this is what we do when we do a create. This is what we do when we do an update. And sure enough, I don't have a deletion handler in here. So I'll get that in now. Update type is, oh, these should be triple equals, shouldn't they? Equals, and then in here we're doing what? Update type dot delete. So if the client has requested that a component be deleted, we just say if not component update dot component ID. Just copy this code because you're not allowed to request deletion without an ID. That would make absolutely no sense. Delete of a component without an ID. And then what we just do, await entity dot delete one. No, sorry, this is an update because we're not deleting the entity. So we just copy that. Let's just copy the whole thing. So that is going to wait. It doesn't like that. We'll get to that in a second. So we're asking it to update, but instead of set, I need to work out how to get it to, let's do MongoDB delete from collection, edit document, nested array. Sets. Easy. $. Welcome, Conrad. Welcome to the stream. We're currently trying to get the troll to play a swooshing sound whenever the troll attacks the player. The sound being controlled by the server, but then played by the client. As with all the stuff I'm working on at the moment, though, there's a lot of infrastructure to be developed while I just get the first AI working. Okay, so we're going to pull, and then this is what underscore ID, and then I have to set that. Now it doesn't like my await. Oh, that's because we're inside a map, so I actually need to return a new... Oh no, I can just return the result of the update. That is a promise. All right. I'm liking this. I mean, the chances of this request working are close to zero, especially given that should be a dollar pool. I'm just going to compare it again to that Stack Overflow example. So they've requested an update. Oh yeah, that should probably be an update. They are trying to delete something from the content.assets. Oh, theirs is a weird case. They've got a... They've got like an array inside an array or something. All right, let's just see. See what happens. Oh, I think it's this. Let's try it. Oh, what did I just press? Yeah, it's easy to get bored of the infrastructure. I personally quite enjoy writing the infrastructure side of things. My background is I've done a lot of web services for a living. And thank you for joining us on the journey. It's great for my motivation that people are actually interested in seeing this stuff happen. So I think I would have gotten bored of this ages ago if I didn't have the YouTube devlog and now the development stream. So thank you everyone who's been joining in. All right. So this is not looking happy. Why not? Just try restarting the service. Just in case that was just a server crashing. Nope. I've got a compile error somewhere. Oh, cannot apply full to a non-array value. So yes, I need to pull from components where ID is that. Is that going to work? I think I can probably remove that condition there as well. So I'm asking it to update this item and remove that. Ah, that looks better. Okay, all of this disestablishing stuff, this is just some old client sessions that are getting cleaned up. Okay, so we can see here that the number of play sound entities is not going up. Something wrong in my debug though. Let me fix that. Ticker index. Oh, I see. Yeah, so this is correct. There is only one play sound entity. It just has a lot of play sound components attached to it. But the number is now not growing continuously. If we go and look at our troll, troll is here. It is a mob. It's an AI agent. It has an AI agent state. And it has 3 sounds active on it at the moment. So these are correctly expiring. It's starting to look good. So the next thing to do is to work on the client and get it to detect that play sound component getting created and have it play the actual sound. Okay. I think that needs to go in. This code's all over the place. I really need to refactor this. So when we receive a message, if it's the player, then update the player. Otherwise, what it does is it goes and stores a copy of the entity coming from the server, stores it in this object called remote entity data. It stores it in, yes, a component called remote entity data. So I'm going to be really hacky right here. And does this actually do anything? All right. Yes. So this is where the entities get passed, the remote entities, sorry, so the server-side entities get passed into our client. Sorry, let me try that again. This is where the remote components get passed into our local entities. So I'm just going to keep I'm going to do this very hackily. A private, what is it, a list in C#? Yes. List of strings called played sounds. And this is just going to store, that's just going to store the IDs of any play sound components that have already been played, because we don't need to play them again. Yes, this will continue to grow. I'm not too fussed for now. Then what we're going to do is when we see a component, let's just rename that to updates. Let's find any updates where the type is play sound. And then I'm going to say play sound in that. If not played sounds dot contains play sound dot ID is going to be equal to new UUID. What have I called it? I've got a class called UUID somewhere. I'm sure someone out there's laughing at me. They know exactly where this thing is. I know that I use it to work out who the player is. To UUID, which is... All right. Told you I was being dodgy. I'm just going to copy and paste this code. Nope, that doesn't belong there. That's down in here. So this obviously needs to go to a common helper somewhere, but I'm not going to bore you guys with code refactoring. So it's going to be equal to 2 UUID. We pass it the play sound component dot component ID. Then if played sounds does not contain the ID, then add played sounds. This should probably be a set or something. What do they call them in C#? Set. Add the ID. And then, I don't know, how do you play a sound in see, in Unity? I guess it's a component, right? Time to pull up some help. Play sound in Unity. Audio source. Is audio source the source is attached to a game object? Audio listener. Okay, so that is probably not currently set up. Single audio clip. All right. So if not game object dot as get component. Is there a has component? Audio source. Oh, there's a get create component, isn't there? No. This is the problem with swapping between Unity and TypeScript, isn't it? Unity as component. Someone will have asked about this already. Check as a component. Yeah, I'll just write it from scratch. If get component audio source is null, then how do you add a component? Add create. Oh, you're all probably laughing at me. Add component to game object. Unity. I've been so long in the server. That's the game object.add component. I've been working on the server for so long that I've completely forgotten all the Unity stuff. Add component audio source. And then audio source is going to be equal to get component audio source. Not the most efficient way of doing that, but it will work. Then I can do audio source dot play, take a resource. No, I need to set the resource somehow. How do they do it? The clip. Specify the clip. Here we go. So I'll do something like this. Audio clip, sources.load sounds, $, sounds slash the name of my component. It is the play sound dot attributes dot sound dot attributes dot where attribute goes to attribute dot name equals. Okay, what do we call that? We call it do the attack. It's called sound. All right. Sound dot select. Enter goes to enter dot string value dot single or default. Sound is going to be equal to sound attribute question mark dot string value. All right, so I think sound is now a possibly null item holding the name of the sound we want to play. I'm not sure if I need the .mp3 on the end. Let's put it in anyway and just see what happens. If sound is null, then log debug log. Can't find sound to play and return. Continue, sorry. So that should load the clip. Then I think we can do audio source dot clip. Well, I could have just set that in there. Does load have a generic version? Yes. What did I just press? It does have a generic version that lets me do an audio clip. Audio clip. Let's get rid of that. Then we do an audio source dot play one shot, I guess. I can just pass it the clip. That will handle all the loading and all that kind of stuff for me, I think. Okay. Odds of that working are near zero. It wants to refactor something, I'll just let it refactor it. Cool. There is that. Then I need on my player, pull my player out of the game, and then I'll add an audio listener to the player. I think we'll just magically hook everything up. Fingers crossed. What's this doing? Just stop. Stop. There we go. Okay, player. They need a new component, which is audio listener. I'm going to be absolutely amazed if this works. Save that. I will just delete my database, recreate the troll. There's the troll. Bring a player into the game. That does not appear to be working. Oh, 2 audio listeners in the same scene. What have I done? Let's get rid of that. Delete. Move component. I must have already created one. The camera. Thank you. There it is. You're absolutely right. Thanks, Luxlolex. So is that gonna... I don't know why the health wasn't updating before. That almost feels like I've introduced a bug onto the server. There's my other unexpired session. He'll go away in a moment. So the thing, like, I'm not surprised the sound isn't playing, but what's surprising me is the fact that I've got no health changes happening. All right, and something's now crashing over on the client, so I'm just going to close that out, see if I can work out what's going wrong with the server. It's attacking. Is it not doing any damage anymore? How does our player look? JQ. Our player has very, very, very negative health. So that suggests that the client-side issue. Let's delete my entities again, recreate my troll, and then I'll get a breakpoint in the server manager. I'll enable this breakpoint once we get close enough. All right, play. So once we get in here, I'm going to enable that. So here's my ID. This is the troll update coming through because the ID doesn't match our entity, so this must be the troll. So I'm going to step. It's not a delete. It's not an invalidate. Let's watch this come in here. So that's meant to go there. Fine. Wait, do we have any updates where the name is playsound? We do. We grab the ID. This is one thing that's wrong. I think this is the troll's ID, isn't it? Whereas what I really want is the component ID. Oh, hang on, I've hit a second breakpoint. Yeah, ignore me. All right, so this is the troll coming through again. Come through. Come into here. This is correct. Then the ID gets set to... Is that just crashed? I think that this is crashing, and the reason is going to be really obvious. I'd say I'm not sending through the ID properly. If we come in here, I just want to hit this breakpoint here. Here we go. Now, play sound has a null component ID. Okay. So, let's close the client. Either the server isn't sending it through, seems fairly plausible. UDP transmitter, datagram generator. Sure enough, this is not setting the ID on the components. This needs to be D. This is going to be ID. Let's do D from hex component ID dot to proto. I do a lot of converting of these IDs. It's probably not great. Now, what's happened here is I've added this attribute to protobuf. So I probably need to make sure I rebuild my protobuf files. I've got a target in here, yarn run protoc C#, I think it's called. No, run protoc. There we go. Then this will have compiled my new, where does it go? It's proto out. Here it is. It's now compiled a new I54 class for C#. So I will copy that new class across into my client. All right. Let that recompile if it needs to. Seems happy. Oh, that's okay. Ignore that message. That. Okay. Is that going to work better? Let's give it a try. Oh, I think that this is in a breakpoint, is it? Where am I? I will disable breakpoints. Run through. That should stop the client properly. Then start the client up again. Doesn't look right. Where's the troll gone? Oh no. Session has gone bad. Okay, something's gone really, really, really wrong in here. My whole service has come down. Is not right. Ah, yes. So, there's something wrong with my protobuf generator that generates some TypeScript that is not compatible with my module loader. So I always have to make a slight change. I need to add a little command to my protobuf run command that just uses sed or something just to get rid of that. This should work now. Run that. Okay, So we have no play sounds. Yeah, ignore those sessions dying. We've got a single hashtag agent. Welcome, Dogs Cray. Welcome to the stream. Currently, I've lately been working on getting some AI working for a troll in my MMO. It's the first piece of mob AI I've written. Right at the moment, I'm trying to get it to play sounds in the client controlled by the server. Now, where's my client? We restart the client. Go, here's our troll. I'm going to run up and fingers crossed, let's make sure my sound is on. Okay, it's not getting the audio clip. You can see here, so that is going to just be an incorrect path when I tell it to load the audio clip. It's probably this .mp3. Is my path right? Project. Resources. Sounds. That looks right. Yep, there's my stale player session. Now run in. Failed to... Oh, no, that's okay. Oh, hey. There we go. Bit loud. But there we go. Got some sound playing, controlled by the server. I do need to work out what is causing this latency. Actually, I'm going to just take a crack at it. And in my UDP transmitter service, I think it's just that the ticks are running out of sync, so it could take up to 2 seconds for anything to actually get processed. So under my configuration for my UDP transmitter, where is it? Config. If I change this to 10, then we'll get 10 ticks per second. And I think that will just make it a bit more responsive. I mean, it could still take up to a second for the troll to see that I'm there, because he's only being processed once per second. And I don't want to increase the AI's frequency at the moment because I don't have any cooldown on the attacks. Let's try that. Oh, hang on, that's I've got to restart the service, don't I? Because that won't have the... It won't have the configuration change. In here, let's go. And let's see if that behaves a bit better. In. Take up to a second. No, that should be... What's it doing? It's not even attacking. Why are we not getting an attack? Well, it worked for a moment, didn't it? Have a stale player somewhere around here. Stale player. I've broken the AI. Oh, there it goes. All right, so something is going really flaky in there. It's just not seeing the player sometimes. Like we could see that it was not attempting to attack. So I'm not sure what's going on there. That's it's working now, kind of. Come back in. Yeah, so it's working. That delay, I'm not actually all that worried about that because it's only processing the AI every second, and then it could be up to a second until the UDP transmitter sees that it needs to tell the client. So once I turn up those frequencies, the delay should largely go away. I will at some point also try to synchronize things a little better, so the UDP transmitter will try to run as soon as possible after the AI has executed. So I'm not hugely worried about this stuff yet. The really long delay, that wasn't lag or latency. That was something the AI just wasn't seeing the player for some reason. I suspect that there was something wrong in my UDP receiver service or something, because you'll see if I run up now, it's working absolutely fine. So, yeah, I'm not sure what that issue was. The server is definitely not stable at the moment, and I'm going to just put that long delay there down to server stability. So there we have him playing a sound. I'm probably going to finish the stream up here, and this afternoon I'll work on trying to get him animated and get a cooldown into him. Yes, I will finish it up there. I do want to thank everyone very much for joining me. I think we've made a lot more progress today than the last couple of streams, which is great. So thank you again, and I'll see you all next time. I plan to stream again same time tomorrow. Catch you around.